recording button. Right, so hello, good evening everybody. I'm Marina Sofia standing in for Rebecca, and tonight we're going to be discussing The Silver Road, by Stina Jackson. And there will be spoilers, no doubt, as there always are in our book club discussions. So if you haven't read the book yet, maybe listen to this after you've read it, or if you don't mind spoilers. So first question, as always, is, did you enjoy the book? Did you enjoy the read?
It was all right.
No, I didn't.
I didn't really.
No.
Okay, why was that? What did you not like about it?
So, is that both the,
I think Billie, Lorna, Karen, was that Karen who said you didn't
Not
enjoy
sure.
it? Ah, not sure.
It was one of those.
It was one of these crime novels that didn't really have a crime in it for an awful long time. It was it was a novel of loss rather than a crime novel. So I felt a bit cheated. And I didn't think it was particularly well read, and it was dreadfully edited. There you go. That's my synopsis.
I watched it. I read it on Kindle, and it kicked off at about 84%, and it was all over 95%, and it was just that so much leading up to a 10% worth of action in the novel, which was great when we were finally there. But I felt it could have been so much more done leading up to that. And I don't think he explored some characters deep enough on the peripheral of the main few characters.
the characters did come across as being very shallow, and it was very much a reporting style. This happened and that happened. But I did wonder if some of it was maybe lost in translation. Because it was a translated novel, wasn't it? And you think, yeah. Oh, you know, I don't know how these things work, but it must be so difficult to do. But no, I didn't like it at all. Did not like it at all.
Oh dear.
Well,
Anybody who did like it? Anybody want to put a good word in? Okay, Marcia?
Well, I kind of suggested it last month, actually, because I thought
you.
Yeah, you can blame me. I thought it was the best crime novel I read last year.
Oh my God.
And on rereading it, it wasn't as great as the first time through, but I still think it's a great novel, a great crime novel.
And what did you like about it?
I like, well, I like the atmosphere of it, actually. I like the geography of the place and the, you know, the forests of Sweden. Put me in a forest and I'm happy. So I was very happy in this one. And I did like the, I liked it as a study of grief and a study of denial, really, because Helle was really in denial about his daughter, wasn't he? And that's what kept him going. So I liked it for all the non-crime things, actually. I thought it was a very good literary crime novel.
Welcome, Janet. We were just
Hi, sorry I'm late.
talking. We had not at all. We had quite a few people who didn't like it very much, the book, and we had one person so far who did like it. So anybody else want to speak either for or against it?
The one thing that I did think was done quite well was the atmosphere. Not just the physical atmosphere, although I thought that was nicely done, but how can I put this, the emotional atmosphere, particularly with the original family. The loss of Lena has devastated the family and they know it. I thought that atmosphere of loss and sadness was done quite well. The rest of it I could pick apart, but that part was done well.
It's funny, people's perceptions, isn't it? Because I actually felt the opposite. I didn't feel that atmosphere at all. It's just funny how people perceive it differently, isn't it?
Just because I didn't feel it at all either.
No, I didn't feel it.
It's weird.
I suppose to support the book a bit, I liked that action bit at the end. I thought I knew where it was going, and I was pretty right. I liked the main character and the girl. I can't think of her name, Miha or something.
Mija, yeah.
Maya.
And I liked her. I thought she was quite a nice, deep, complex character, and I was always interested when I was reading her. I didn't dislike it. It just took forever and ever and ever to get where it was. I felt I was on that long silver road, just trying to.
I think that is that not part of the intent to make you feel that way?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, but I wonder if that's where some editing might have helped.
Yeah.
You know, because there is a lot of repetition, and not of words so much as actions of similar things, and you know, I thought a few times, okay, you've made your point, he's doing this, or okay, you've made your point, she's like that. And I wonder whether it would have benefited by having a little bit tighter editing, or it could be the translation.
I mean, it maybe isn't a particularly good translation, but I read quite a lot of crime fiction in translation, and I would just say this one didn't cut it. It didn't make the mark. And as you said, I think the editing wasn't particularly good. I mean, one of the things I really like about crime novels that are set in places I have never been is I can visit that place, and crime novelists are usually very good about being accurate about the place they are depicting. This book got on my nerves very quickly because it kept speaking about Glimmerstrack. The place, if you look at on any map that I could find, was Glommerstrack. And the Silver Road doesn't go through it. The Silver Road is much farther north in Sweden.
Ooh,
Yeah.
so you
there
actually
you go.
checked up.
Every time I read it, I am just reading a mistake. And that is just so annoying in a novel. It should be totally within an author, translator's ability to get these two little facts right. I mean, even if it had just been a little sentence to say, this may not be the silver strap or whatever it is it's actually called in Swedish, but it feels like it to me. Now, that one, you know, one sentence along those lines could have just changed the whole geography of it and made it correct for the book. But why the name of this town, that one town, because all the other towns were written incorrectly.
Well, maybe it would have helped if it had been a completely fictional name in that case, so that you couldn't compare it to anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I was thinking actually that the atmosphere of, and I didn't check it on the map, but I could just see that kind of very remote. Hello, Norman. Hello. Thanks for joining us. I could totally see that very remote northern part of Sweden being, you know, an easy place to get lost, and also to start a kind of cult or an end of the world apocalyptic sort of survivalist homestead or whatever it was. So it's a good place for people to disappear deliberately or not. So I kind of like that. Did you feel that the setting helped the book? Or I think some of you have already said you didn't feel the setting very much.
I think it did. There's another author called Will Dean. He actually had an English author that lives in, it might be Sweden or the same region.
Yeah.
And he's like very, you know, he says his books in like northern Scandinavia.
Yeah.
And they are kind of, in terms of atmosphere and even things like describing the forest, his ones are kind of far better. But whether that's a translation thing, I don't know, because as I say, he's an English author living there now. But, you know, he's did about 3 now, and been kind of well reviewed. And again, it's similar settings in remote, quite inhospitable kind of towns in like northern Scandinavia. I'm sure it's Sweden, maybe Norway.
Yeah,
but-
no, it
No,
is
it
in
is.
Sweden,
It's
yeah.
Sweden.
And that's when I was reading The Silver Road, it goes, oh, you know, this is like Will Dean stuff, but you know, he's better. And also, I don't think there's any, they didn't really have any surprises as well. I'm not one of these people that tries to think ahead how it ends, who did it, but as soon as that strange guy, strange farmer boy who's awkward around girls kind of appeared, I thought, you know, he's kind of telegraphing that one, yeah, you know. This guy's kind of been set up, yeah. Oh, I thought it would be a red herring, you know, or something, you know, because I thought it was a bit obvious, you know. I think they call it shining a lantern, hanging a lantern, you know. We'll come back to this, but
Did the dual storyline work for you? Because for it's become such a fashionable thing lately in crime fiction. And I have to say that I spent half of the book wondering when on earth will those two lines meet. And then when they meet, it's almost a disappointment because it's like, oh yeah, well, it wasn't as spectacular as I expected it to be.
I must admit, I wasn't over keen on the structure of it. I felt sort of it was just a few paragraphs and it just swapped each time. And I wasn't over keen on that. I'd rather have got more into, because again, I just felt it was all shallow. Whereas if we'd have gone on a bit longer, maybe a few more paragraphs with each area, you might have felt a bit more involved. But it was just, and it didn't help, as I say, because of the reporting style of it, which was, you know, this happened and that happened, and then he did this and she did that, and you know, I just, well,
See, I was thinking exactly the same thing, that if the passages for each of the main characters had gone on longer, maybe even full chapter length, then you can follow along with the story. It might not have made the book better, but I think it would have been easier. I know I had to stop a couple of times and say, wait a minute, it just starts with he, but is that still Maya's story and a male character, or is that the other story? I thought that was a little choppy.
Yeah. And again, down to the editing, I found that a couple of times I had to stop because I wasn't clear who was speaking, you know, so I had to go back and try and figure out who was actually talking. It wasn't good.
Okay, so we've done the setting, we've done the dual timeline.
Marina, can I ask a question about bringing up about the Will Dean? Because I've read Will Dean as well, and it's Scandinavia is in winter where you've got all the, you know, feet and feet of snow and a lot more iciness and coldness. And is that the Sweden we expect in a novel, or did the fact that this was in summer Sweden, that's not usual in well, certainly not in what I've read, did that make any difference, do you think? Did that kind of dilute or diminish the effect of the setting in any way? Just wondering.
That might be the case, although I have to say in Will Dean's defense that he does have one of his books is set in summer, so actually around midsummer, so the same
third
thing.
One?
Yeah.
Well, I've not read that yet.
Yeah. So and I think I've read a couple of others that are also set. It's either midsummer or the depths of winter, isn't it? It tends to be with Scandinavian crime fiction. So, and this one started off kind of midsummer and then ended in winter, didn't it? So, yeah. I guess.
Can I just ask, has anybody read any others of this author's books?
I think this was the first one that was translated, and I think that it actually won the Glass Key Award 2 years ago, or at least it was shortlisted. I'm not sure if it won or not. It did win, yeah. So there you go. So, which was the highest award for Scandinavian crime fiction.
So that was the Swedish version that won it. Because again, we've got the translation issues.
I wonder. Yeah. So one question I've got here is about Maya's relationship with her mother. What did you think of that? Was it believable? Was it something that you kind of felt was overdone, or how did you feel about it? Which clearly impacted a lot of her decision making.
Yeah, it kind of explained why she moved, and with Carl Johan and the family, yeah, because she looked after her mother, not really the other way around. And you can tell at that age, you know, she just wants some time alone, you know. Whereas her mother's kind of settled, you know, she's got her paintings, she's got her red wine and cigarettes, yeah, and a bit of a soft touch of, I don't know, Pion Beyond, what they called them, yeah. But no, I think it wasn't overdone, really, but, you know, it was enough to explain, you know, why she moved away, you know, from her mother, and, you know, explains her the lifestyle she led as well, you know, why she's not really had many friends, never settled, so not overdone, I don't think, no.
And perhaps quite naive about certain things, so kind of worldly wise in some respects, having had to grow up fast with her mother, but very naive in some other respects. At least that was my feeling.
Yeah, I thought it was maybe quite a good love-hate relationship she had with her mother. You know, she obviously loved her, cared for her, but hated everything that life brought.
Yeah, certainly hated being in the northern part of Sweden.
Yeah, Stockholm to the north, yeah, to the wilderness.
I thought it was an interesting. When they sort of talked about relationship, I was quite interested in it. I thought it was a complex relationship, as you would imagine it would be. But once again, I felt the characters could be, well, the mother's character could have been, you know, explained a bit more about the background, and certainly about the relationship with the chap she moved in with. I can't even begin to pronounce his surname or his name. But yeah, it was just to me always just not deep enough, you know, and that's how I felt. I mean, it was all right, but it just wasn't deep enough. It could have done so much more for me.
What were your initial thoughts on Carl Johan and his family? Did you instantly feel suspicious, or?
Yeah, I have to say, the minute that Maya met Carl Johan and his brothers, my antenna went up. And I thought, I don't know exactly what's going to go wrong here, but something is not right. And it was, I couldn't tell you if I had to, why I felt that way or what they did or said, but something about their presence. Yeah, I'm skeptical. Something's going to go wrong here. And then when there started to be this talk about, well, they're a little funny about modern conveniences and this and that.
I was like Paul, when Goran was mentioned, it was just like, yeah, he's the one. And then when they took the girl down to that bunker where he'd got stored all the food and said we can live here for years, and straight away it was like, well, where's the other bunker then? You know. Yeah.
Yes, there were some red flags there, weren't there? But that's interesting, because I felt sorry for Goran. I'm obviously such a sucker for hard luck stories, because I was thinking, oh God, I used to know so many boys in my class and in secondary school who were full of acne and things, and nobody wanted to talk to them. So I really felt sorry for him initially.
I was thinking back, there was some clues about the mother, I think Anita, you know, how she was very nervy, very quiet, you know, you could tell she wasn't comfortable even in her own home. So I suppose the way it ended, you know, it was you know, again, it was quite good. She finally kind of came out of her shell in a way, yeah. But, you know, but did the right thing, you know. As I said, the father, was it Berger, her name was, you know, he was, you know, he came over all avuncular to start with, but, you know, he was a real dominant kind of character behind his, you know, grandfatherly kind of avuncular kind of persona that he had, yeah.
I absolutely was really disappointed in the ending. I never saw I mean, I hope everyone's read it now. I never saw the mother come in from behind to shoot her husband, but I was really disappointed. I was always hoping for Leo, was it, the main character, to I don't know, somehow develop some strength or something, because he was always, even though he carried that gun, he was always being duffed up or fallen over, or every time he went into a house, someone else sort of, you know, he had to escape quickly because he was just, quite frankly, he was rubbish, you know.
He's so angry as well, yeah.
I was like, oh, come on, do something, you know, be that sort of hero. It ended up being the wife of the crazy man sort of touch.
I found his relationship with the policeman a bit weird as well.
Yeah.
I found that a bit odd, a bit strange.
In what way?
Well, because he's obviously stuck up to some sort of friendship. It just seemed a bit odd to me, the whole thing. Again, I don't know. Maybe it was because of the shallowness of it. It just seemed. It didn't seem as if it could happen, really.
But is it not that they're in this rural community that's not got a very big police force, not got very many inhabitants, so that friendship in that kind of setting could be quite authentic? Just not in an urban town in Britain, but I thought that was quite okay.
I think there was somewhere where they said that they actually knew each other from before, so it wasn't like they were friends beforehand. They went grilling or some barbecuing or something together. So I think it was just, you know, his friend who happened to be in the police felt sorry for him and kind of indulged him in his continued search, rather than, you know, they started becoming friends because of the disappearance.
Oh, right. I missed that bit. That certainly would have made more sense.
Yeah. But you're right, it's not necessarily spelled out very clearly. So you've already started indicating, Craig, that you weren't entirely happy with the ending, although you said that's where the action picked up, but it wasn't quite to your taste.
I thought also where Leo contacted Hassan, the police officer, to tell him of his concerns with the relationship between the girl and that family, at the point when she hadn't gone missing as such, she hadn't been sort of hit and put in that bunker. But then she was hit and put in the bunker. And at that point, I was like, well, where are the police? Where is Hassan following up this information? The girl's now gone missing. And with these concerns that he'd raised, it was never pursued. And at no point, it was just mentioned and it was just lost. And it was, at no point did that come up, because I would have thought that would have been pursued, at least certainly in the novel itself. But it never was, and it was just a case of those 2 weeks were glossed over. It was 2 weeks later, then all of a sudden, Nell was there trying to find out himself, and he had a gun put to the back of his head. You know, that whole 2 week period had so much more to give, and I was so disappointed when, you know, where are the police? Where's Hassan? Hassan should be the hero. Hassan should be the one digging, go into this house, not letting go, being the pain to keep sticking around and snooping around as such. And it never materialized. You know, it was that was quite disappointing. But you're right, though, all the action was there. You know, we waited so long on the Silver Road to find it.
Don't you think it was clever that the whole novel was really about isolation and the various types of isolation, from the cave, from her joining the family, from the isolation from the mother, father isolating the daughter? I thought it was quite clever the way that was brought in, and if you followed that into the whole concept of northern Sweden, which is desolate, isolated, the way they all strung together, I thought at a deeper level, it was a very enjoyable novel in that respect.
I think there was a couple of paragraphs, was there not, where he talked about loneliness or something. Lyle kind of mentioned that. He says, oh, everyone's so lonely, you know, this is how it's not meant to be. So yeah, just when you raise that, you know, this may be kind of a slight underlying theme, you know, the isolation of maybe modern day society now. Yeah.
What really struck me was the distance between the houses and the farms and so on, and that they all had to take the bus to get to school or anywhere really. And so there were really quite long distances between places. So when he is searching for these, it's quite a lot of territory that he has to cover, and that really brought it home to me how, as Norman says, how isolated they all are, and how easy it is for things to happen and nobody knows any better or any different. So yeah, I thought that bit was well done for me at least. So any other thoughts about the ending or that you liked or didn't like?
I struggled to get to it, to be honest.
Oh,
I mean, I read up to about 75%, and then obviously had this meeting tonight, so I wanted to finish it. But usually I'm like a 2 a month kind of person, but this one I just really couldn't get into it, so I haven't really got much to say on it, to be honest, but I wanted to hear obviously everybody else's views.
So clearly after 75% is when it gets to the action, according to Craig.
Yeah, but like Craig said, it was so disappointing, because I think where it takes so long to get into it, you're kind of expecting more, and it just didn't happen. But
yeah, I do wonder if maybe there was some editing in the sense of some bits from the Swedish original got cut out, because I'm hearing from a lot of you saying that, oh, you know, this bit wasn't pursued, or this bit just disappeared, or something like that. So I'm wondering if maybe, because sometimes that does happen in translation, where they say, oh, you know, an English-speaking audience won't necessarily get that, or let's tighten it up a bit or something. So I don't know, I'm speculating here, I have no idea, we should ask the publisher, but I think there might be, because I too had the feelings sometimes where I had to read something over again, a page again, because I thought, oh, have I missed something? Is there something that I haven't read here yet? Yeah.
You might be right. I was thinking that there were a few characters that pop in once or twice, and then you don't get to know them any better. And I'm wondering if their stories would have been followed more with the original version.
Yeah, like the boyfriend or the girl in school, or I
thought about her, and that veteran that is living, that squatting.
Yeah, they just pop up and then they disappear. Yes, and I felt that surely an author would have made more of this. Why would they create them and they come in and have a dialogue and so on, and then just not use them? So, yeah.
Actually, the number of characters in the whole book are very limited as well. There's not that many, including the 1 minute appearance type of things. And I think that again goes with the theme of isolation. Maybe it was just something I read into it, but I really enjoyed that. I thought it was very, very cleverly done. The plot, not so much, but the atmosphere was really good.
Well, given that there were only a few people in the book, there were only so many suspects you could have, right? Did anybody fall for that Pornbjorn red herring? No, too obvious. We've read too much crime fiction, right?
Absolutely.
I did have to wonder, though, once we learned a little more about him, two things. First of all, how could Celia fall for someone like this? Second, how could she stay with him? Third, how easy it is to be whoever you want to be online.
True. Yeah.
I think the answer to that is desperation, is it not?
Yeah.
He was her last chance saloon, I think. And she would have, I mean, it could have been an awful lot worse and she would have still stayed.
There was a roof over their heads, wasn't it?
Or at least she would have stayed until she got bored or depressed, and then moved on. And then he disappeared very suddenly. There was nothing about him in the conclusion to the book. Did I miss something there? Or in the last chapter, you know, Maya shacks up with Lele, becomes his surrogate daughter.
Yeah.
And we hear about her mother going to a hospital, to an asylum or something like that, and getting some treatment. And not a word about Torbjorn. That's it. That's the name, Torbjorn. What's happened to him? I don't know. I do worry, you know. I always worry about the poor, you know, the acne-ridden little boys and the big boys and the sad old man there. Yeah.
To that though, when was it Crow, the girlfriend, met the ex-boyfriend of Lena, and then I mean that was a start of an avenue, and then just gone.
Yeah.
And then didn't pursue it anymore. And then when Mia was missing for 2 weeks, it could have easily been pursued, but there was just nothing. This whole 2 weeks just flew by with nothing.
Yeah. Well, perhaps that contributed, maybe the police incompetence contributed. You could understand why both Birger and Lele felt that the police were not doing their job properly. So in a way, it was fuel to their thoughts about that. Okay, so not a resounding thumbs up by the sounds of it. Is there anything else, any mitigating circumstances, so we kind of like the setting to a certain extent and the feeling of isolation and loneliness. We felt the relationship between Maya and her mother were sort of plausible, at least, maybe insufficiently developed. Any other positive words?
A believable storyline.
Believable?
Yeah, like it's one of those that it's a believable storyline, but I think it's very unoriginal though, because I have read similar things to it.
Yeah. I have to say I'm starting to get a little bit tired of the girl being abducted and kept somewhere imprisoned storyline.
Yeah.
It is so many.
How many crime novels do you read a year? I'm asking everybody, because I read about 10 a year, so that's maybe why this felt a bit more original to me than it obviously did to your more discerning palates. But how many do you read?
40 or so.
Yeah, I was
one
say,
every 10 days or so, I would say.
Yeah,
It
loads.
would be more than 10, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I
read about 2 a month, I think.
Yeah, me too.
I think the positive of this book is it lets you appreciate a good book when you read it.
Very good, very good.
I think there's so much competition with crime books as well. Like
there is,
there is.
And so it's very hard to find oh my God, that's a shocker. It's really hard to find that, I feel. I mean, it's very rare that I come across that myself.
You don't necessarily need to be shocked. It just has to be
engaging.
Yeah. Well written, so that you don't have all these loose ends and dead ends and things that blocks your mind to the story, I find.
And even the story, you know, I think Marina Sofia is right. We have this abducted girl theme that's been in so many crime novels. We have this person who won't give up the search. And even though you can understand it and you can say, okay, yes, a parent would probably feel that way. How many books have we read like that? Yeah. I've read a lot of them. And particularly if it's not done in a way that pulls you into the plot quickly and keeps you interested, it's so hard to pull that sort of thing off and then translate it on top of everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there were a few paragraphs where I really thought, oh, okay, yeah, that's the grief and that's the isolation, and where I actually thought, oh, actually, that's quite well done. That's quite poetic. That's quite lyrical. I can sort of, but there just weren't enough of those. Maybe I would have liked more of those, but without
I think
it being
it's maybe
repetitive.
that we've all read too much Scandi noir. It's become.
You think it's having its moment has passed now?
I don't think its moment has passed, you know, because I think a good book will always be a good book, no matter where it's set. But I think that too many people have come onto the bandwagon. Sorry, like I said, I quite like reading fiction and translation, because I always think if somebody goes to bother translating something, it must have been good originally, and it's a way of sort of finding a better read book. But you know, I kind of find that there's now so much Scandi noir. I think publishers are just looking for more and more of it.
In other words, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, is what you're trying to say, Lorna.
You know, if this won a prestigious award, you can't really say that about it.
No, yeah, that's why I'm thinking, because, you know, they have a great competition there. You know, there are so many good Scandinavian writers that I'm thinking it can't have won a Glass-Key award, you know, unless that was a particularly poor year in Scandinavian crime fiction, which I don't imagine it was. So,
mind you, you know, maybe I just don't really take to the Scandi one so much, because I'm probably one of the few people I know who doesn't like the Girl and the Dragon Tattoo lot and Stieg Larsson either.
No, I don't like that one either.
All right.
But that's because it wasn't edited at all, you know. He died before they edited.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've raced through them, yeah.
I was thinking about, you know, the translation in particular, and I think it must be just so difficult. I think it's, when I was thinking about it, I thought it must be more difficult to actually translate a book than to actually write a book. Just because at least if you're writing a novel, you're coming from yourself. Whereas if you're translating, you've got to be try and be true to the language, but also true to what the original writer wanted, and that must be so difficult. And that's the only, you know, that's the thing that I think, oh, you know, maybe I shouldn't be too hard on this novel, but it's, I do feel there was a lot lost in translation and editing.
But thank you, Sue, because I've just recently translated a novel, and you wouldn't believe how many times you sort of feel like, oh, I would like to rewrite that. No, that doesn't really work. If I could write that differently, and then you think, no, I can't write it differently. It's not what the writer has written. I've just got to translate.
So at the end of the day, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
But this maybe should have had some of that.
Yeah, or as I said, you know, maybe it did have too much of it, so we won't know.
You just don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll tell you who I used to read, and as a translation, and it's the only translation I've ever been happy with is Guy de Maupassant, his short stories, and they were fantastic. They really, you know, there was whatever, I don't know how they were in French, but they were brilliant in English, but a lot of the other translations I've read haven't been good. I don't think I've come across one that I was as unhappy with as this one, but you know, what can you do?
Yeah. Well, okay, so I think on the whole, not a brilliant read, we can all agree. So just to remind you, for next month, it's going to be you suggest anything you like, any kind of crime fiction, any type, from cozy to historical to whatever you wish. Email Rebecca as soon as possible, either tonight or tomorrow morning with your suggestions, so that she can write it up and then we can vote on them. So, and she will say which day exactly it is, because I haven't got the calendar handy to figure out which Monday we'll be meeting next. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patience with me as a moderator. And I hope I'll be able to end the meeting now successfully. Oh, first let me stop the recording. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Enjoy the
Thank
rest of
you.
your evening or
Bye.
day.
Bye.
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 Good job, Marina.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.